Hello and welcome to Just Onside. It's Friday the 13th. It looks, Lewis, as if you're underground. I mean, I know it's been kicking off, but where are you, my friend?
It was a good reference with Friday the 13th, I must say. But no, I'm at home. Just slightly switched my seat around. Nothing special. Doing okay, mate. It's been another week of working at home. Uh, Quite a lot of organizations actually working from the offices, but ours extended the courtesy of working from home if we can. Obviously, we're reaching the end of Ramadan, so there's a small holiday period coming as well. But yeah, not doing too bad. Still stuff happening overhead, as you've seen, I'm sure in the mainstream media as well, covering it back home, stuff happening in Dubai, you've seen as well. So yeah, there's a still very unsettled, not many flights going out from Abu Dhabi airport. So yeah, still staying vigilant. Are you?
All right, just on that though, obviously, it's like for us in the UK, we're obviously watching the news. There seems to be uh, lots of sort of missiles flying all over the place in the Middle East. I mean, is it a little bit calmer now than it was at the start? I mean, are you sort of said you're still hearing? I presume they're interceptors, aren't they?
Yeah, firstly, don't think I'm too privy to say too much. That's the first thing. If you look at some of the stories going around right now about what you can and can't share, but no, for the most part, it's fairly well organized in the sense that you get alarms, alerts onto your phone or to tell you that something's coming overhead. And then to your point, there's a lot of interceptions happening and loud bangs, some louder than others. So it can be quite unsettling. But yeah, I think in Abu Dhabi, it's getting a little bit of the brunt of it. But if you look at some of the images from Dubai as well, it's quite serious, to be honest with you, when you have things
It
hitting
certainly
large
is. Yeah, yeah.
high-rise buildings and a lot of debris flying around, no doubt causing injury and damage to surrounding property.
Right. Okay. Let's talk about something more lighter. Uh, let's talk about football. It's been a break. I mean, there's been sort of no Premier League action, but there's been plenty of action. There was a cup at the weekend and some Champions League games. But there's a story that obviously is at the top of the agenda. We were going to have Moggy on, but he's got some sort of childcare responsibilities, so we've let him off. But he did say that he's happy to shoot on a Monday, following following sort of Spurs getting beat. Now, if that is the case, we'll definitely have him on. He'll be going nuts. But uh, talking about Spurs, it's been a calamity after a calamity. I mean, for me as a Leeds fan, obviously, I'm
Yep.
sort of quite enjoying this, and I obviously I want it to carry on. I'm glad Tudor is still in charge, but it sort of almost came to a head a couple of days ago in the Champions League when they got absolutely battered. But it was the humiliation,
Yeah.
I think, of subbing a keeper after about 17, 18 minutes after he conceded 4 goals. So that almost, I think, sort of embodies exactly where
Yeah.
Spurs are at the moment. So I mean, as an Arsenal fan, I know you're a gentleman. No, you're not. But what is your thoughts on what is happening at Spurs? I mean, there's a lot of people who are criticizing Daniel Levy. I've got a feeling that if Daniel Levy was here, they won't be
Yeah.
in this predicament. So take it away.
Yeah. I mean, it was quite the affair, wasn't it, in terms of what happened the other day in midweek, and Spurs unfortunately becoming quite the story of the season. I mean, you said Moggy couldn't make it. I don't know if he's got a job interview at Spurs or anything lined up. I'm not sure because there could be a vacancy, and there's no doubt, in my humble opinion, that they will be losing at the weekend. So yeah, we probably will have him on Monday. Wednesday was probably you. They've had a few difficult moments this season already in terms of uh, we spoke about it in the DA in terms of the absolute epic failures that they've had this season. But I could argue that those first 15, 17, 18 minutes was about as I think it will go down in history in some ways within a lot of Spurs fans' minds that night in Madrid when we were 17 minutes 3-0 down or whatever it was, and the goalkeeper had to be substituted. I think that will live long in the memory. Tough on the goalkeeper, first and foremost. That you on a personal note, that's nobody means to make those type of mistakes, do they? But
Hmm.
so a horrible moment for him, but it's symptomatic of where the club's at. I don't know if you saw the goal from Alvarez in the second half. I don't know if it was Pedro Porro, what have you. He runs with him, runs with him until he decides not to run with him anymore. At the point when you have to put a last ditch challenge in. So right now they're going through it. Van de Ven could have got sent off for Yub, which another day could have, and you're just questioning the kind of smarts of some of these players in terms of the difficulties that they've been having. Romero obviously missed crucial games. I just think right now, they are in an absolute world of trouble. I know you think your team's going to be right in amongst it, and they are right in amongst it from a relegation perspective. I think that's fair when you look at the points totals. But right now, Spurs, what is the one? You tell me, what's the one glimmer of hope that they have? They don't have any. I mean, it's a club going nowhere fast. They're conceding goals at an alarming rate. The goalkeepers are getting shifted around left, right, and centre. Manager doesn't seem to have any approval rating with the fans whatsoever. I don't know if you saw Jamie O'Hara again, light entertainment, but he was obviously pushing for him to be fired. I thought he might be. I think you were in the camp that you thought for sure it's going to happen. It was interesting to hear Harry Redknapp about you, but I don't know if you saw on Talk Sport talk about how he spoke to Daniel Levy for the first time in a long time, this previous week, and Levy was slightly complaining about how he was frog marched out of the club as well. So clearly, there's things happening behind the scenes that slowly starting to come out that all is not well, and that always Ayub. You have a really famous phrase which I really like about the fish rotting from the head from the top, and that seems to be the case at Spurs because clearly all is not well. You can't have back-to-back seasons like they've done, Ayub, in the league, and then suggest somehow that you're a big club because you are who you are. I mean, a
Yeah.
season is fair enough, but two back to back, that's a pattern now. That's habits. That's bad habits being formed. So I think they're in a world of trouble, Ayub. I think they lose at the weekend Champions League. I mean, what can you say, Ayub? The game's done and dusted. I mean, give them credit. They've fought and scrambled so that it's not been a complete and utter abject humiliation in terms of it being maybe 6-0 or 7-0 or something along those lines. I'll give them that credit that they've somehow kept it kept the tie somewhat, have some semblance of it being in the balance, but they will not come through this in the second leg. I think Igor Tudor spoke about it before the game, saying, "Look, the Premier League's where our focus lies. Let's be very clear." So, I think it's an unwelcome distraction for them anyway. They have one more game to play in the Champions League. I think then it's a case of all hands on deck. Are you for the Premier League survival? Right now, I don't see anything to suggest that they will survive. Massive disconnect between the fans and the manager, massive disconnect between the fans and the ownership. And when I'll finish off on this, when you're not expected to be in a relegation battle, that eerie atmosphere can take you down where the club becomes disengaged and disconnected with the fans. Like I mentioned this last time, Leeds expected to be in this position. So the fans know that with 8 games to go, whatever it is, 9 games to go, right, let's get behind the team. I think even you agree, you're probably a couple of wins away. You just need to find a couple of
Mm.
big wins and to give yourself some breathing space. Spurs, because of the way the fans, they would have expected this season to be much, much improved. I mean, they fired their manager at the end of last season, so they would have expected this season for massive improvements. The fact that it's not the case, I'm just wondering what's going to get the fans on side in terms of right 9 games to go. It's been a bad season, but let's keep this club up, and that's the worry for me. That massive disconnect. I think the manager may lose his job if they lose to Liverpool, which I expect them to do. But then that next appointment has to be a fan favourite, and it will be. I think you will
Mm.
agree it will be some sort of fan favourite, just to give the club a lift. And even if that's a 7 game stint, 8 game stint, so be it. But I think that's what that club needs. They need a lift of some sort to galvanize the group to get a victory because right now things are trending massively, massively in the wrong direction. So yeah, a difficult night in Madrid. But again, they've got 1 game left in the Champions League, I would say.
I mean, it's a question that I was thinking of in terms of where it's all gone wrong. Now, obviously, you talk about it's been for 2 seasons now. They did win a
Yeah,
cup last
yeah,
season under Ange. I mean, but it's a sort of strange situation because it's a club with obviously it's a new stadium. It's one of the
yeah,
in terms of match day returns, it's one of the most wealthiest clubs, or at least in terms of match days. It's set up to be an established and a team that really should be challenging for silverware. As to
yeah,
what's happened and where it's gone wrong, because they have spent money. I mean, maybe the recruitment's not been great, but it's difficult to put your finger on it because I mean, even sort of Pochettino. I mean, Pochettino was reasonably well respected, but he never
Yeah,
won anything for 5 years. So it's a club that's really it's become stagnant. It's sort of going
yeah,
nowhere. Even though, and I'll give Daniel Levy credit because ultimately he was a businessman. I used to always say that he's a businessman. So what he's done, I think he's
yeah,
been quite successful in what he's done because he's made it a really uh, sort of profitable football club. I mean, the stadium is magnificent. I mean, I've never been, but by all accounts,
yeah.
it's a
It's
state of
lovely.
the art stadium. So he's done everything that he possibly can do now. Obviously, there's some arguments about negligence in terms of the football side, but
Yeah,
I don't think so. I mean, I think he's perhaps not been the shrewdest in terms of the football side of it, but I think they've spent enough money. But I just can't put my finger on where it's gone wrong and what's gone wrong. I mean, in terms of sort of your sort of
yeah.
perception, well, what do you think? I mean, do you think it's something that's identifiable, or is it something that you just can't put your finger on?
I actually think you are right to give him credit, Ayub, with regards to what he's done on the business side of things, because you only have to look at gate receipts and the turnover and all the rest of it. They've obviously got a couple of NFL games that they host on an annual basis and what have you. So they've hosted some boxing fights as well. So in terms of revenue generation and becoming some sort of center point for sports in general across the world, that stadium is revered. So Tottenham Hotspur are in some ways on the map with that, in that respect, and well respected. I think the issue is, I don't know if you saw the Gareth Bale podcast that he did on the overlap, or the feature that he did when he came on the
Mm,
overlap, and he kind of mentioned this and he spoke about this, about the salary structure and the wage structure at Spurs. So I actually think that the whole business side of things, I think somewhat it was a fool's errand, because over time, especially with Man City, Chelsea, Liverpool, Manchester United, maybe even other clubs, willing to pay much, much bigger salaries for footballers, it slowly is going to create a gap, isn't it? You've been division
mm,
between the level of talent and clientele that you can secure. It's the same at Leeds, just on a different scale. So I think when you have a set structure in place where they don't pay the top dollars to top bucks, you're not going to be able to attract the very best players. And for the longest time, they were, I wouldn't say fortunate. I think this is to their credit, but they had Heung-min Son, they had Harry Kane, one definite world class player and one pretty much on the cusp, and probably did hit world class in terms of his peak in Heung-min Son. But essentially, they were, I wouldn't say propping up the club, but their absolute excellence kept them in many competitions, kept them in Champions League races, kept them in even the occasional title race and what have you. So they had Harry Kane's and Heung-min Son's best years, let's say. But then you remove, and Gareth Bale somewhat, although he obviously moved on very early to Real Madrid, came back for a second stint where obviously this was at the back end of his career.
mm,
But they don't have any world class footballers, Ayub. And I would argue they don't even have that many what I would call very good footballers. They've got a sprinkling of young talent who, in the right environment, like you think about someone like Archie Gray, yeah, he's had a bit of a baptism of fire. And these minutes, by the way, and these games and these pressurized situations will stand him in good stead, you'd think, in the long
mm.
term, by the way. These
Yeah,
experiences of, where the crowd's anxious and it's pressure and it's negativity and all the rest of it, that should stand him in good stead in the future. But
yeah.
you've got to be protected, aren't you? Archie Gray is not one of those players who you'd say, right, we need to lean on him to get us through. He needs to be protected by bigger players, more mature, more experienced players. And right now, there's probably just this imbalance in the squad in terms of where, too much being asked of, let's say, junior pros, I would say, or mid-tier players, and not enough, I would say, world-class footballers. I mean, they don't have any world-class footballers. They have a weak goalkeeper. They have a decent centre back in Van de Ven, but I question his decision making at times. Romero, let's just not even go there. In the middle of the park, they've not got any commanding midfielder in that respect. A lot of tryhards, but not enough. And they're not got enough up front. Are you nothing on the wings that you'd be super scared about? Again, Simmons, decent player, but you can't have Xavi Simmons as being your best player. He's got to be on the sprinkling. He's got to just that little bit of stardust. So for me, it's the salary structure is a big one, because there's a huge gap between them and the other teams. Now, is there a gap where they should be finishing 17th or 18th? No, absolutely not. But I think then what's happening is there's this snowball effect of too much being of players where you don't want them to have to carry that burden. So I think that's what you're seeing. It's just too heavy a burden for some of these players to carry, and you see them making really poor decisions, including the manager as well. So Listen, I think they're in a world of trouble, Ayub. I don't see any positive signs for them right now that I can point to.
I mean, that's music to my ears. I mean, I'm hoping that is the case. I mean, I have got a feeling. I think, I mean, I'm surprised Tudor is still at the club, but I've got a feeling that if result doesn't go Spurs' way, which I hope is the case, because I mean, obviously it puts
Yeah,
us in big trouble. But if that is the case, then he has to go. I mean, I just cannot see a scenario where he would continue, because I think certainly there's grumblings from
yeah,
players that they're not happy, especially with the way uh, sort of the midweek game went and his treatment of the young keeper. Uh, but we'll wait and see how it sort of transpires over the next few days. Right.
yeah,
Talking about sort of clubs in trouble. I mean, maybe that obviously this is not sort of monumental trouble, but uh, sort of bad results. Very, very bad day in the office for both Manchester City and Chelsea. Uh, uh, Sort of with Man City, I mean, I was really, really surprised, but then I
mm,
wasn't surprised because I think it's been that sort of season, so it wasn't a surprise. I mean, Chelsea are just it's hit and miss with Chelsea, isn't it? Really, it's never quite sure which Chelsea is going to rock up. But do you think it's something that they should worry about? But really, want to sort of focus on it. And it is something that we've talked about before. I've been obviously very sort of critical of Guardiola, but is it just got to a stage now where they need a different voice? Because they have, I mean, we've talked about obviously they've made improvements in January, really good improvements, but it seems to be a club that there's very little consistency. That I know where they are in the table, which obviously sort of reflects that a certain consistency. But in terms of their usual high standards, they're way way
yeah.
below those high standards. So sort of talk about the games and maybe about the manager as well, Guardiola. I mean, obviously, Senior is there for a little while, but Guardiola, do you think? I mean, I keep talking about it, but do you sort of still think he is the right man in charge?
Yeah, I do. I do. However, I do think this will be his last year, and that's got nothing to do with what's happening on the footballing side of things. I think he's a bit tired. And I think you can see that in some of the press conferences in terms of how he is on the sidelines as well. I go back to those comments he made about certain world affairs that makes me think that he's not checked out. I wouldn't do him the disservice of being so unprofessional, but I think he's mentally thinking, well, it's my last year, so I'll start to speak a little bit more freely about perhaps what's in his heart and what have you. But anyway, uh, listen, the time's not over. That's the first thing I would kind of just say. I know what you're going to say. It's over, but no, I don't think it is over. I don't think you can rule out this Man City team now. Mbappe should be back for the second leg. I watched the. To be fair, I watched the Chelsea PSG first off, and then I decided to watch the City Real second off when there weren't any goals. But I thought I'd split my time like that, given both games were on at the same time. And firstly, just on City, yeah, look, it's a very disappointing result. They've probably got 10% chance of turning that around, and that's only because it's Man City. They've still got Haaland, Semenyo, and a raft of top quality footballers. So if they can get an early goal, like Mika Richard spoke about, I think they need to create a fever pitch, don't they? You return leg, Etihad, get a goal early, maybe get a second before half time, and before you know it, the crowd's really into it. Thing that you'd expect. I know away goals doesn't count now in the Champions League, but you'd expect Real to score. I mean, you just would. But I'll be interested to see what it does for the Real Madrid dynamic if Mbappe is fit and healthy and he starts him, because Real really dug in, I thought, for the most part. Other than a shaky first 10, 15, I thought they really dug in terms of shape, defensive stability. Everybody was working for one another. Not too many household names, by the way, in that Real Madrid lineup. Obviously, Valverde getting all the flowers, rightly so. Elite footballer, top quality footballer. Three incredible finishes, all different types, but top quality. But it'll be interesting to see how Real shape up. Will he keep Mbappe on the bench? I mean, it'd be a big call, but there could be an argument for it, just to unleash him with about 30 minutes to go, you. Because Real know they just need to defend their way through this tie now, essentially. And they've obviously got an incredible goalkeeper. It's a big disappointment, isn't it? I mean, they had a tough road anyway, because if it's not Real next round, it's Bayern. And you saw what Bayern did to Atalanta. So it's going to be a tough road regardless. But they were favourites to get through the Real Madrid tie and to not score. And in the end, not really lay a glove. I mean, They had a couple of situations. O'Reilly when he picked the pocket of that player when he was dancing around in the 6 yard box and what have you. But it wasn't like the Alamo where they were like piling
Mm.
it on where you thought they were going to score. If anything, Real should have put the game to bed. Horrible penalty from Vinicius Junior and a few other situations as well. So yeah, look, I think that I think the die is cast for them somewhat. It's Real, it's the Champions League, it's a 3-0 deficit. So I think we should probably save judgment till the second leg. Just very quickly on Chelsea, though, if you don't mind. Um, Lots to like about Chelsea's performance. Really lots to like. I mean, I know your son, I was texting him throughout. He was bitterly disappointed. I think it was in the evening prayer for the
Mm.
first half and what have you.
It didn't
But
work.
he was, yes, exactly. But I mean, they played really well. They caused PSG all types of problems, especially positionally. I think Rossini is showing me that he's committed to a certain style of football. Yes, the situation about how they build out from the back is going to define him in a lot of ways because I've been speaking about it to your son quite a bit actually over the last couple of months. This Chelsea very slow playing out from the back, really inviting pressure, intentionally saw you. With a view to beating the press, and that's burnt them a few times, hasn't it, Ayub? So
Mm.
uh, they shouldn't have been out of that tie. The way they played in the first half, they should not have been out of that tie. I think a 3-2 deficit, fair enough, take it back to the bridge. Even a 4-2 deficit, you're somewhat in the game because you fancy Chelsea to score, by the way,
Mm.
at Stamford Bridge. But now it's just, I mean, those last 10 minutes has killed them, hasn't it, Ayub? So
Mm.
there's a lot to like about the way Chelsea play. And I think there are, from a mentality perspective, still a little short in terms of not just personnel, but I think that elite level mentality that you need to manage certain situations, like 3-2 down, right, guys, let's not attack. Let's keep it tight. Let's take a 3-2 deficit. That kind of mindset, knowing that this is simply half time and now the die is probably cast. So lots to like from a Chelsea perspective. They'll see it as somewhat of an opportunity, Mr. Yub. Don't forget they're in the bracket of Liverpool, Galatasaray. So they would have fancied at least to come out. I say fancied, but they would have. There's nothing to be fearful of. Let's say. I think it's. I mean, I expect Liverpool to turn that one around. But it's you're not going up against a Bayern or a City or maybe even an Arsenal or a Bayern. So anyway, I think they'll be bitterly disappointed. But City's probably more the story. It's interesting, just very quickly, how if City do go out and if Arsenal do manage to turn that Leverkusen game around after a draw, whether that actually you'd probably just say that might just favor City actually down the stretch with the Premier League, knowing that they've not got those big games to come in the Champions League. But anyway, that's one for another day. But yeah, both teams will be bitterly disappointed at you.
I mean, in a funny sort of way. I mean, I think with Chelsea, with Rosenior just taken over, sort of few weeks, month,
Yeah.
it's almost as if you don't want to set the bar too high. So I'm almost sort of thinking that maybe this season is better if they don't progress in the Champions League, because in a sense you want a whole season with the expectation if he was to get to the final or win the Champions League,
Yeah.
it puts an enormous amount of pressure. So it's a bizarre one that because you're always sort of wanting to win things, but sometimes maybe timing is very, very important. As a manager, you want to make sure that right, let me have an opportunity to build this club. If they win something straight away, obviously the expectation is much higher, the pressure is much intense. So I think with Rosenior, maybe it might be a blessing in disguise. I mean, it's not ideal if you're a Chelsea fan, but it could be a blessing in disguise. But for Man City, it's. I mean, I've got a lot of admiration for Pep, both as a coach and as a man. I think what he's done in recent months, spoken
Yeah.
out. I think he's elevated himself certainly in front of my eyes. But I just think that this is. I just sort of feel that he's been there too long now. It sort of feels, even though there's some newer players there, it sort of feels as if it's he's overstayed his welcome. He's the messages
Mm.
is not getting through because it's sometimes embarrassing watching this City side. Uh, and there are some players who just I don't know what's happened. I mean, Foden a couple of years ago, he was sensational.
Yeah.
Uh, he seems to be sort of and also run at this moment in time. I mean, I'm not sure exactly what's happened, but it seems to be symptomatic of what's happening in Manchester City. The club, it seems to be in some sort of malaise, and
Yeah.
and again, people would sort of point to the fact that they're second, they're still in the Champions League, albeit I suppose by their fingernails. But
Mm,
it's just a club that I think maybe the head coach has stayed one season too many, or maybe two seasons too many. That's my personal feeling. I just sort of feel that he's he's not the coach of old. Maybe you're right. He needs a break. Maybe he just needs to freshen up. Maybe that hunger, that appetite,
yeah.
that sort of desire, perhaps that fire in the belly isn't as intense, and maybe it needs to be intense for him.
Yeah, when you look at, in a sense, what happened with Klopp, if you remember when he announced the fact that he was leaving Liverpool in that kind of piece that he did, I think with LFC TV, he spoke about that you need somebody that's going to be able to give a maximum in terms of 100% to this football club. And he said, right now, I don't think I have it. You cannot shortchange the effort and application that you need to lead this football club, is essentially what he was saying. And he didn't feel as though he had that energy to take it forward. Now, if you look at him now, you saw the interview he gave to Stephen Bartlett, and just generally, if you listen to some of the sound bites, he looks refreshed, he looks ready. You feel as though he might be about to dive back into the dugout. And that's sometimes what it means. And I think Guardiola, some of those races that he ran with the Liverpools, even with the Real Madrids, he obviously topped the mountain by winning the treble. I think he saw in recent times, obviously not having won the title last year, that would have hurt. Then potentially not winning it this year. I think he would have wanted to leave on a high. So I
Mm.
think that's why they're putting all their eggs into the basket. They bought Gehi, they bought Semenyo to try and retrieve this situation. They wouldn't be in a title race, by the way, without Semenyo's addition in January. So you sense that there'll be some Man City fans that agree with you as well to say that, well, we're never going to fire him, which is right. But there might just have to be a mutual point of ways, and sometimes you've got to move on in a sense before it's time, somewhat, because you've got to give the next guy a little bit of runway and take the squad forward. You're right about Foden, player of the year, I think it was a couple of years ago. Not really featured. Guardiola went a bit expansive, didn't he, with his Savinho addition and Doku. And Doku's top player. Savinho, you
Mm.
could question it a little bit, but he went fairly offensive. And it's obviously his common stock, although it was a really good first 10, 15 minutes. So, yeah, look, they'll be bitterly disappointed not to score. You expect Real to score in the second leg, and that's where I think it's going to get difficult for them. But I wouldn't put it past them or you to turn it around. I think second legs are always about creating some euphoria
Mm.
within the stadium, especially when you're behind. So if they can create certain situations, they've beaten Real convincingly at the Etihad. I think a few times. They'll have to make it one of those memorable nights again. But yeah, let's save the post-mortem perhaps after the game.
Yeah, I suppose there's hope. I mean, Liverpool were in a similar predicament against Barcelona, and they turned it around. So it's possible. It's possible, but it's a big old mountain that they're going to have
Yeah,
to climb.
yeah,
Right.
yeah.
It's the Premier League again, so my nerves are frayed again. It's. I mean, I think for you, it's probably going to be nice and straightforward. I mean, you've got a
Is
game
it?
against Everton, I think. It shouldn't be an issue. It's a home game, home tie. But I think the excitement is towards the bottom. I think there's a lot of drama at the bottom of the table, and there's some big games coming up. I mean, we've got a tough game against Palace, sort of rejuvenated Palace, who sort of were
Yeah.
in the mix a few weeks ago, but they're safe now, absolutely safe, and they're playing with a great deal of confidence. Uh, Forest have got. I'm not sure who Forest have got. Uh,
On to Fulham.
yeah,
On to
Fulham,
Fulham. Yeah,
and West Ham have got Man City, and it's at
yeah.
West
London
Ham at
Stadium. Yeah,
home.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
so I mean, this is I don't know whether there's going to be a hangover for Man City after that game. So it's one where they've obviously had that trip to Spain. Uh, so I'm a little bit concerned whether they're going to be at it. I mean, for my part, I need them to be at it. There is a silver lining. Somerville has pulled up injured, so he shouldn't be starting. So at least that sort of gives me a little bit of hope. But we're playing on a Sunday, so really that result on a Saturday evening is going to be massive, massive for us. But so what's your take overall in terms of the games at the weekend, and who do you sort of think is going to come out in a better position after the weekend?
Yeah, I mean, you said Somerville might be injured. I mean, I'll be forever blowing bubbles this weekend, are you? So no, I mean, no. Look,
How dare
he's their
you?
he's their only hope, to be honest with you. I mean, he's that good. You know how much I've raved about him in the recent weeks. He's a joy to watch, actually, as well. Sheer entertainment as well in terms of the way he plays his football, very progressive. But yeah, look, Leeds is a difficult game, isn't it? You Palace a couple of weeks ago, you'd have thought, listen, we can get there, we can go and get a draw. I think you'd happily snap my hand off at a draw. But right
Mm,
now, because Palace have come into a little bit of form, played really well at Spurs, saw us firing Wharton with a couple of nice assists and what have you. And suddenly they look a team that's, they were a bit unlucky against United after dominating the first half. Then the red card changes everything. So I think, look, you've got a tough game on your hands. Really good confidence boosting win at home to Norwich by Leeds. That should give them a little bit of confidence, a little bit of joy to kind of go into the game. But you'd take a point, wouldn't you? So I think West Ham at home to City. What's interesting in terms of look, this is Man City. I don't think they're going to let things fester too much. They are a champion outfit in that respect, champion coach. Obviously, they played a very different team at Newcastle in the FA Cup and came away very comfortably. If you think about it, in the second half, at least once Newcastle had took the lead, I think City really then dominated and showed their class. So I think they should be fine in terms of juggling the squad and what have you. So I think they'll be fine. Arsenal home to Everton, they've had trouble before you. I think last season or the year before they drew 0-0. I watched it. 2 hours in my life that I won't get back again. But it was, yeah, it's one they have to win. This is their last Premier League game, by the way. I think for another 28 days. So you don't want you don't want to defeat to linger or a draw to linger, do you, in terms
mm,
of that amount of time, especially when you're going for your first title in 22 years. So yeah, look, they have to do the business. They had a disappointing game in midweek. They weren't good. They stayed in the tie, which is what you have to do when you're not good. Just stay in the tie. But they were not good. So I think the fans will expect a performance as well. They'll want to see a performance, I think, just to give the boys a little bit of confidence as well. So yeah, look, I think from a relegation perspective, I think Forest have got the best opportunity, don't they? You home to Fulham, they'll
mm.
think this is our chance with some of the other
Yeah.
fixtures the way they are. You'd expect Leeds not to win, you'd expect West Ham not to win, you'd expect the Spurs not to win. So Forest with a home game, although they had a difficult game yesterday result. I don't know what their lineup was. I imagine they were prioritising the weekend somewhat. But
No, they had
home
quite a
to,
strong lineup for the game. They
yeah,
had quite a strong
interesting.
one. Yeah, 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 yeah.
Interesting. Interesting approach as well, I would say, because I think all hands on deck with the Premier League survival race, I would say. But
Mm.
home to Fulham, that's opportunity. I think Forest is the game this week in terms of if you're a Leeds fan, you'll be keeping an eye on that game more than any other just to see that they don't kind of get away from yourselves. But at the top, you'd hope Arsenal have enough. Moyes will come, make it tight. You know how Moyes will approach the game. But I would hope that Arsenal will win, and I would imagine City will have too much for a struggling West Ham team.
I mean, that Arsenal game is going to be one damn ugly game because I think the way that the Arsenal are sort of setting up these days, it's quite sort of turgid and quite sort of that nothing's going to pass us. So, and I'm sure sort of Moisey will like to do a number on Arsenal. But it's going to be an interesting weekend. Really has been an interesting season. I think there's so many sort of stories. And I'm absolutely sure there's going to be some more stories. And I'm still gutted. Do you know that Sunderland result?
Yeah,
That I hope that's a result that doesn't haunt us come the end of the season because that really should have been it. That was a gimme. That was 3 points. Just think the difference that would have
yeah,
made.
for sure.
That was a real hammer blow.
Just very quickly to you, I mean, I imagine you don't see anything but a Spurs heavy defeat at Anfield. I mean, I know Liverpool are not pulling up any trees, but come on, you can't be expecting anything other than a comprehensive win for Liverpool in that game.
Well, this is a Liverpool side that is in such erratic form that there is absolutely. I mean, I'm under normal circumstances, it will be a straightforward. The forms of the sides, but I just sort of think Liverpool. This is a Liverpool side which it's creaking a little bit. I think there's some sort of. I mean, there's disquiet amongst some of the players. I'm absolutely convinced with Slot and his tactics. This is not an impregnable Liverpool side. You'd still think that Liverpool would have too much. I'm hoping that Liverpool do sort of get the result because it will be a cracking show then on Monday with Moggy. But if I mean, as I said, the worst case scenario for me will be a draw. Ideally, I want a Liverpool. sort of victory. But I'm not as sort of confident as you in terms of that Liverpool sort of victory because I think Liverpool have just been so sort of inconsistent this season. So it wouldn't be a surprise if Spurs turn them over because it's a club that really at the moment is not very sort of consistent and their performances are sort of showing that.
Yeah, absolutely. I just think if they play with the type of verve and speed and Anfield and all the rest of it, Spurs, I don't think they can handle that. Not right now with the mental space that they're in. Now, if they can get the game to settle and they're on a level footing, then perhaps they can eke their way into the game and what have you. They've got some talented footballers, but I'm just thinking, given the week that they've had, in terms of in the league, in terms of Champions League, to then go to Anfield, where you can go under quite quickly in terms of the crowd and what have you. Yes, you're right. This is not your typical Liverpool team, but honestly, I don't expect anything other than a relatively. I'm not going to go for a thrashing, but I think it'll be relatively comfortable because I don't think Spurs right now are in the right frame of mind to offer anything in a sense consistently across 95 minutes. Will they have a good, decent 10 minutes, 15 minutes somewhere? Yeah, of course, but not enough, I don't think, to win games of football at Anfield when you're struggling like you are. Look, Leeds opportunity knocks. There's a gap between you and Brighton, so probably 15th is the height of your ambition. Uh, Listen, they've had a good win last week. If you can win at Palace and West Ham don't win, that's 6 points with a much superior goal difference. So let's see, all to play for.
It's all to play for, and it's going to be a cracking weekend. I've got until Sunday, so I don't have to worry about it tomorrow. But sort of West
You
Ham are
seem
playing, so at
stressed.
least, yeah. So West Ham are playing, so at least I've got something to either sort of look forward to. But if Man City do us a favour, that'll be tremendous. In a sense, that should almost free us up for the game on Sunday and almost like sort of make it a free hit. So I was thinking if we win, and that would be amazing. But let's wait and see. Let's wait and see what transpires over the weekend. So on that note, always as always, thank you. You've obviously
Likewise.
already broken your fast, so you've been able to enjoy a cup of tea. I've
Cup of
still got a
tea.
good few hours before. Oh, it's water, is it? All right. I've got a good few hours before I start scranning. And to the audience, as always, a pleasure that you've joined us. And until the next time, stay safe. We'll see you soon. Ta-ra for now.